All right, so welcome everyone to the Early Childhood Equity Fund grant kickoff meeting for the 2025-2027 biennium. And we'll be covering information mostly just for this first year of the program and fiscal year, so 2025-26. And yeah, so glad to have you all back. I know we had a break in July, and I hope you all got to, whether you had time off or not, I hope you got to enjoy some relaxation time this summer. So, Brandon, next slide. All right, so we have already put this in the chat, but I'll put it in there one more time right now. We have our sign-in sheet. And so if you could please, for those that are here, please open the link and sign in so that we can note that you were in attendance today. I'll pause for just a moment to allow you time to open that. Okay. All right. And if you have any issues with that, please put it in the chat. We did a test run, so it should be up and running just fine. All right, Brandon, next slide. Okay, so we're not going to take too long on our icebreaker today because we have a lot of content to cover, but I didn't want to miss it because we haven't seen each other for a while either. So my icebreaker today is pretty simple. It is, what was one of your highlights from summer? And so I love when people come off chat to share, but also feel free to write your responses in the chat. We probably have time for just a few of you to come off mute and share with us. I can start us off, and I'll just say that a highlight for my summer, even though I haven't taken actual vacation, has just been working in my little garden. My garden doesn't get enough sunlight, so it's quite leggy, but I'm showing it lots of love and I still got some good veggies from it. And my highlight in my garden is my wildflowers. I planted them everywhere, and ones
Oh,
that I've never grown before or seen are coming up, and it's just every day I'm like, oh my gosh, it bloomed. And yeah, just very exciting. It's the little things. So, would anyone else like to come off mute and share?
There's several in the chat that have been shared.
Yeah.
Visit from guest in Switzerland for Heather, and Sunshine and Flowers from Allison. Going to Victoria, British Columbia in a couple weeks. Oh, Jeff, I'm jealous. And being a bridesmaid, oh, a middle school best friend. That's super fun. Sitting on balcony and eating great farmers market fruit, always great. Scrolling down. Uh, Mignana has been taking grad classes. I feel that is a lot. So, and camping, great.
All right. I'll give one more moment if someone wants to come off mute and share, and if not, we will move right along. Brandon, did you want to share something?
I can. Seeing all of the kids, not just my own, but friends and stuff, seeing their growth at the county fair from 4-H stuff from last year to this year. Just a lot of fun leadership skills and everything. And also, my son has grown like 4 inches since last summer, so everybody just kept commenting on how tall he is. He's entering freshman year this year, so it is that time of life for growing.
And Brandon, I realize we might have a few new people joining us depending, so I think we should both introduce ourselves. So you can start and then I'll start before I
Oh,
do the next
yeah,
slide.
I could be who I am, I suppose. Good morning, y'all. I'm Brandon Harvey, they, them pronouns, and I am ESEF's grant management specialist for from Delk. So I'll throw it to Emma.
All right. For those of you that may not have met us yet, I'm Emma Maurerman. I am the program manager for the Early Childhood Equity Fund, and I use she, her pronouns. And this is Brandon and I's first start to a biennium together, so kind of exciting. We've both been here for less than 2 years, and we're excited to be working as a team to support all of you. All right, Brandon, next slide. Some of the overview slides I'm going to move more quickly. So just general goals for this meeting, to know what reports are required, when, where, and how to submit them, ensure clarity in program requirements, including spending categories, record the meeting as we're doing, and provide the recording as a resource for staff, and you could even use it for onboarding staff if you have some new hires after after the kickoff meeting. All right, Brandon. Program and reporting overview is what we're going to start with. And we'll start with the reporting requirements. Okay. So this slide is about the reporting requirements and the project evaluation. So this information can be found in Exhibit A, the project in your grant agreement. So I'm just gonna go over quickly what these this list of items, and then we'll be talking about some of these in more detail as the webinar continues. So firstly, we have the monthly claims in the agency grant management system. We also are having required monthly check-in meetings, monthly webinars, monthly programmatic report submissions. And these things are all, again, you can reference them in the grant agreement. Then monthly expenditure report submissions. We also have a program service delivery calendar, and I'll go into that. It's much shorter and different than last time, in a good way, I hope. And then to participate in the evaluation of the Early Childhood Equity Fund program, it's evaluated through Portland State University. Lorelei and Alexis are leading that front. So that is just a very brief overview, and we will continue on and go into more detail about some of those items. You can move on. There we go. Okay. So first off, I just wanted to highlight, bring to your attention that we no longer, it has a mind of its own.
It turns out if you fidget with your mouse, it will make
Oh,
the
it'll do
slides
it.
go. So
Okay.
I
I
will
was like,
stop
oh
fidgeting
no.
with my mouse now. I
Yes.
apologize for that.
Yeah. Um, okay. So we, as you know, we've had the equity plan as a deliverable for the last 2 years that I've been serving in this role, and we still have the equity exhibit in the grant agreements. But basically, after getting feedback from numerous program managers got feedback from grantees, and we also had our own feedback as program managers to share with the social equity department. And so after careful consideration, the requirement to submit an equity plan has been removed. However, I just want to highlight that DELC is just as committed to equitable practices, both internally and within all of your agencies and programs that you run. And so there is still an exhibit. It's called Exhibit C, Equity, in all the grant agreements, and we really encourage you to review it. I know that some of you might not directly view the grant agreements necessarily if you have a grant manager that's doing like the signing and sending it in. So I encourage you to ask about that if you have not laid eyes on the grant agreement. Are there any questions just really quickly before I move on? Okay. I hope that while I acknowledge the amazing work that that you all put into your equity plans and reviewing them was really insightful and was um, a part of my job that I did enjoy. There wasn't enough kind of structure for us to be able to follow up with each of you about those plans and check in regularly. So I hope that it will feel like a bit of a relief that you don't have an additional deliverable. So, okay. So now we come to the program service delivery calendar. So as I mentioned, it is updated and simplified from previous years, and I'm going to share it with you all in a moment. Not quite yet, but I'll take over screen sharing so I can show you what that looks like. And the purpose of that is really to share an outline of your planned ESEF program activities and goals for the 2025-26 grant year. And the questions are reframed, and it's more of like a actual program outline than the way it was formatted previously. And so in your grant agreement, it says that it is due within 30 days of the execution of your grant agreement. However, we're just now getting you that document or sharing it with you, and I'll be sending it out after this meeting. And so if your grant agreement was already executed, we still want you to have 30 days to complete it. So if your grant agreement was executed, you can have until September 20th to get that submitted to us. And you'll submit it through the submissions and request folder or drop down on the portal. So I'm going to get that open and let's see. Brandon, can I steal the sharing?
Mhm.
Okay. Allow multiple presenters to share. Replace current share.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was going to say you should just be able to
Yeah,
replace and
I
steal
just
it.
hadn't done that before. It asked me an additional question. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Okay, great. All right. So, um, it's still, I think in the future I will change the name because it's very wordy. It's a mouthful. But for now, it's still the program service delivery calendar, and it's for one year at a time. So it's for this grant year, 2025, 2026. And so at the start, it will look the same, but don't worry, it is not. So we still have the guidance at the top that kind of outlines, um, how to frame your goals as a SMART goal. You can, um, I'm not going to be ensuring that all of them technically fit that criteria, but it's just a nice guide to have as you're setting some goals. And then there's some examples of things you could focus on in your goal setting. Let's see. So for program goals, I allotted 4 spots, but this is very editable, so you can definitely add more. I ask that you have 4 in there, just as kind of the base amount. And then if you want to add additional goals, that's great, but you do not have to. And as you type, the space expands, just to make that part clear. And there's no specific thing you have to set the goals around. Again, here are some ideas at the top, whatever makes the most sense to you based on your objectives with your programming. This is the part that I'm very happy about. Look, it's done at page 2. It ends right here. So I couldn't wait to share this with you all because the last one was a bit of a mess, and I hated the repetition that it made you all do as you're completing it. And so, anyways, I was very happy to be able to revise it. So this is the program activity outline for the 2025-26 grant year. So basically what I'm wanting is the name of the activity. So and including the program name. So if you have a program that has a certain name, like um, I'll just I'll use an example of what I used to do work-wise or in a previous role. So the program was called Play and Learn, and then the program model that I would be fitting that under was parent-child interaction. And so this is just a box for like the name. And if you just call your program what the program model is, then all you need to put is the program model. Um, and then this is the part that really the activity description is kind of the key component here. That's where we get just like a summarized, outline of what is that activity or group or program that you're running, um, just overall description, and then desired outcomes. So focuses, desired outcomes or goals, kind of all one and the same. And then anticipated start date and anticipated end date. So it's not broken down by month or even quarter. I was going to change it to quarterly. We're no longer doing that because I think this is just much simpler. You just lay out your programs. If one of them only operates in the summer, you still just list it here and then you put the time frame that it would be operating. And it doesn't have to be exact. That's why it's anticipated start and end date. So this is a good time for me to mention that I think you did all get email or an email from Brandon that mentioned we were having some issues updating our portal. So we do not have updated information, unfortunately, on the portal yet. That is in the works, and for now we are emailing things out. So I will email this out after. However, it will be updated very shortly. We're having issues with not having access to actually make the updates. So it's been a big frustration and we're doing the best we can with that. Are there any questions about this new program service delivery calendar?
My question is more on like your guys's program names, like parent-child interactions, parenting
Mm-hmm.
education, and kindergarten transition. So like if we have, for example, a play group that is parent-child interaction, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also teaching some basic parenting education, like on ages and stages. And it
Mm-hmm.
also has, it's preschool age, so it's teaching school readiness. Would
Yeah.
that be all three of them, right? So we would count those in all three, or do we count which one is
So
the
that
main?
that is a good question. So this is something that I've noticed. We have some grantees who report a certain way and others that have interpreted it like that they have to be separate. And so because of the way the models are currently set up, my guidance is that you select the one that best matches the format of the group that you're doing. So for instance, like I referenced that I used to lead play and learn groups, and there was a significant parenting education component to that group. However, I would still categorize it as a parent-child interaction group. That doesn't mean there's not parent education embedded in that. It doesn't like Brandon, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't preclude like those um, other aspects
Oh,
being
yeah.
embedded
Just
because
because it's one, um, it's essentially the main, you choose whatever is the main hub of the three if you're doing all three. Because we have several programs, like Emma said, that have all three components in it, but it is mainly parent-child or mainly
yeah.
parent education, and occasionally the kids are there. So it does get a little confusing. Um, that is one of the bonuses and negatives of ESEF with it being so broad,
Hmm.
that it does get a little loosey goosey in that regard.
And it's possible
Right.
with the rules revision process that we might not have specific program models you have to specifically align with. We're looking at the structure of ESEF. And so, um, but we're gonna be collecting feedback from you, and part of that feedback is like these types of questions where like we acknowledge that that has been confusing, and I think we do because we ask for numbers at in reports that are depending on what program. If you're identifying one program activity as 3 things, then how do you actually report on? We don't want like 30. We want to eliminate having like 30 of the same participants counted in each one if it's only one group. Basically, like one group or activity should just be reported under one category, if that makes sense. So,
Okay.
because, by default, like parent-child interaction groups typically, like you could argue that's also kindergarten transition in a certain way because it's helping to
Mhm.
prepare you for kindergarten, but it's not a specifically kindergarten focused program, if that makes sense. So we ask that you characterize it whatever model best fits the general format or focus of your program, regardless of if it touches on every area, because most of them will have overlap into all the other components as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm-
if
Oh, sorry.
that will, I'm sorry, that will change like some of the numbers we put on our grants then, because last year when I had spoken to you guys about it, it was different. So like if I said we're gonna serve, 200 in parent-child interactions and kindergarten transition, some of those were duplicate. So do I need to have that adjusted?
We can definitely chat about that
Possibly.
in your monthly meeting as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna, we are on slide 10 right now at 50. So I'm gonna say no more questions until the end.
Yeah, that
Emma
is
likes to
important.
be very nice and make sure everybody understands, but we don't have time.
Yeah. Yeah, and previously we were kind of, however, people had been counting within their program models, that's what we were going with because we jumped in partway through the biennium. So we're trying to be more clear on like the differentiation. But so yes, you would be able to make adjustments later. Okay, you took back sharing, Brandon. All right, there we go. Okay. All right. And so we did talk about the fact that we might be moving eventually to bi-monthly webinars as an option. We did determine that at this time, it does not make sense to do that because we really want to have the time with you since we're going through the rules revision process. We don't want to leave you out of that process, and I want to get feedback from you as especially in these next 2 to 3 months is kind of a crucial time. And so we're not at this time going to offer bi-monthly webinars, but that is a possibility for the second year of the biennium. So there's just little bullet points about what we often cover in the webinars. At this point, they are still Wednesdays from 11 to 12:15. And we have the sign-in sheet that you all signed in with. And I'm going to move us along because I know we're behind. So next slide, Brandon. All right. And we also are this year going to really prioritize our monthly check-ins with grantees. So these are virtual meetings. We strongly prefer Teams for various logistical reasons on our end. But Zoom is okay if that's what works best for your agency. And so that's an opportunity to share highlights, ask questions, give feedback. If there's an issue with a claim or something, Brandon is able to just directly ask you, or you can inquire as well. It's really time for you to be able to connect and make sure that you're up to date and understanding everything, and sharing any feedback with us. So those meetings will be scheduled for 30 minutes unless you prefer and request 45 minutes. That's how long they had been scheduled for previously. but they're 30 minutes minimum. And we just want to highlight that they are listed as a requirement in your grant agreement. And we have observed just that grantees that attend do tend to have fewer missing reports and get their claims approved faster. So when we have that open channel of communication, it tends to really benefit both you all and us in terms of grant administration. All right. Brandon, next slide. And I'm sorry, I am going kind of quickly now because I know that we have to. So you can feel free to email questions as well or stay on at the end and ask questions. Okay. So after some careful review of last year's data from the monthly reports, we decided to radically simplify the monthly reports. And I apologize for all the change because we spent a lot of time trying to make this last revision that you all adapted to for the last year. We determined that still with the breakdown of program models in reporting and kind of what Shauna highlighted with her question, that like some people are reporting on different one activity with multiple, or had been like one activity as multiple models, and others had them separated. It just, the way ESEF is structured does not make reporting easy or work in our favor. So we revised it, and I do have a description here of the things that we're asking, but I want to show you the monthly report. So instead of reading these bullet points, which you can review after the meeting, I'm just going to open the monthly report and look at it with you all. So
While you're pulling that up, Emma, I'm just gonna verbally respond to the questions that were in there,
Yeah.
just because you're doing that. We will be sending new invites out for the this upcoming year's webinars and adding folks to it that need to be. So that was just in the chat.
Yeah. So that's a good question. I had just sent this out as an individual invite because we still don't quite have everyone's contact list submitted that we asked for. We have the majority of them, but we want to send them out with all the updated contacts to make sure we're including everyone. So that's why it's really important to get those in so that we don't miss anyone. And thank you very much to those of you that have already. All right. So here is, Brandon, you can see it, correct? Okay. Here is the new and improved monthly report. We do have a separate form for Spanish, and this, I'm going to be going over the one in English. The drop downs are still in English and Spanish, so that's why you're seeing that there. So still at the top, you select your agency name or grantee name, then the reporting month, and we have a note that this relates to the month the activities were held, because we do have some confusion. Sometimes people select the month that they're in instead of the month that they're reporting on. Then we put your name, your email address, and also I believe there are no drop downs in this. So that's exciting. Nothing will pop up and surprise you. So the biggest difference, just to mention quickly, is that we're not asking for program model breakdowns each month. And we are not asking for demographics until the end of the year. So we're not going to be entering demographics as new people join. You're going to be collecting demographics for each person and then entering them along with the end of year report. So what we're asking for in the monthly report is for you to select which types of ESEF program activities were offered this month. If you're just doing parenting education and parent-child interaction, you would just check those. It's just to give us a sense of what you're doing at that time. There's no requirement to select more than one. just whatever represents what you're running at that time. And so then again, I'm going to go quickly and not read all the details, but we are asking for two numbers. How many total children did you serve that month across all ESEF activities? Not duplicated, because you're just counting how many total, regardless of program model. How many total children did you serve? And then how many total parents did you serve across all ESEF programs? And that's giving us a snapshot of how many are being served on average any given month by each agency. And then we ask for an activities narrative. That looks long, but it's just giving you enough space to write that in there. And those are the only required pieces. Selecting those items, total children, total parents, a brief narrative, and then this is optional if you have any additional feedback or information you'd like to share, and then if you'd like to upload a file. Heather?
So just want to make sure we have families that access multiple programs. And in the total number, I just want to make sure that there will be duplication if they access parent ed, parent-child interaction, kinder transition. Are you wanting those separated out as one parent, or it's okay if, you know?
We don't want them duplicated. So it's basically regardless of how many are being served in different components, we want
An
like one
unduplicated
person.
number of total
Yes.
families. Okay,
Total
so it won't matter.
child
if
touch
10
points are served, yeah, for children and total for parents.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And
I have a clarifying question
Yes.
on the parents. So we only are counting parents if they're in the actual program, not just like because we're serving the family through the
Yes.
child, but only if they're in that program, correct?
yes.
Okay.
So yeah,
And through
on the slide
resources.
that I shared, yeah, I clarify on the slide, basically you're only reporting on participants that are directly served
Okay.
by your programming. So we don't, if you're serving a child, don't count mom and dad just because they're the mom and dad of the child.
Okay.
You just count the person who is actively involved in whatever group or activity.
So
If it's
at the end of
parent-child
the year,
interaction, then yes, you would count the.
okay, right. And at the end of the year, will we have to have your program separated out ever? Because that affects how our database is set up for reporting.
Yes. So at the end of the year, I think I'll need to go over some of this stuff at our next webinar in terms of like the end of year report and whatnot. We are wanting to know how many are served in each program
Okay.
model. But that doesn't count towards your total. It's more just for our information to see like what focus areas like are largely being served by grantees.
Okay.
But that wouldn't, because they're probably duplicated, that's not going to feed into like the total served, if that
It
makes
just affects how I'm making
Collect.
sure our database is set up with some codes so that it will collect
Yeah.
it. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Good question. Okay.
So
Brandon.
sorry, I just
Oh,
want to make sure.
yes.
Sorry, one question. I just want to make sure. So if a child participates in all three of the areas, they only get counted once.
Mm-hmm. Because it's one child. So
And
basically,
then if there's a parent that participates in the parent education, they get counted as a parent.
yes,
Okay,
anyone that participates in ESEF programming gets counted once in the monthly report.
once.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if like, let's say for that month, this family only engaged with the program just one time in the month, we still count them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's every day or one time.
Got
Yeah,
it.
however many, basically you're counting like touch points of families or
Okay.
children and parents, not families as a unit.
I have
Okay.
a follow-up question as well. So
Yeah.
let's just say for the first month, we might have, let's say, mom attend with their kiddo, but then the following month, dad ends up joining because it's still the same family help, but a new parent joining. Would we report that other parent coming as like a new parent, or because it's still a family unit we worked with, are they now no longer like a new family or new parent?
No, you would count that toward your monthly total because you're just counting people that have participated that month. And in your um, totals at the end of the year, you would count both of those parents' demographics would go into the demographic report. So you would get credit for both of those parents because they both participated at some point during the year.
Thank you.
I'll go over the end of the year report things, details next webinar because um, the the time is getting away from us. So I think I do have a slide that very briefly mentions the end of year report, but I'm gonna skip over that one. And I think, Brandon, I don't see your face anymore, but okay. Yeah. Thank you for all the questions. Feel free to email me or set up a meeting with me using the link in my email signature if you have further questions. I know we're rushing. We want to cover all the information and fiscal pieces are very important. So
I
I
was gonna
apologize.
say, yeah, we are on, just so that way you guys know, I know that we normally end at noon, but we will definitely be going past that with this because we are on slide 14 of 50. And I
Yeah.
have a lot of fiscal information to ensure that you guys have.
Yeah.
So
We had
jumping,
lots of, I should have scheduled it for 2 hours. We have a lot of changes, or I had changes to go over. Anyways, go ahead, Brandon.
yeah, so the grant agreement, want to chat about that. And so give you guys an update on the grant reduction. I just really want to highlight this because there seems to be some confusion because we sent out current service levels for 1 year that a lot of folks assume that that meant that there was going to be no reduction for ESEF grantees. And at this time, we are still waiting for the state to finalize its reconciliation process. So we don't know the amount of that reduction yet for your ESEF grants. Once that reconciliation is complete, by the end of September, we'll communicate those amounts to you and what your reduction will be for the 25-27 year, and those new amendments will come out to reflect those finalized funding amounts. So I just really want to ensure that we all are aware that the reductions are still coming down. We just don't know the amount. And for the grant agreements themselves, I'm sure you've all noticed, the grant agreements are for 1 year while we're doing the rules revision process. And I am realizing, I don't know if Emma is actually chatting about that during this, so I apologize, but all the budget, grant agreements, and fiscal oriented items are only for the 25-26 fiscal year instead of doing a 2-year budget. And so that amount will reflect what is in your current grant agreement and any changes to the funding amount. So the reductions will occur by the end of September, and your first amendment for your 25-26 grant agreements will be going out then. And then your 25-26 agreement will then be amended for the second time after the rules revision is completed for the additional funding for your 26-27 fiscal year. And now we are at the grant manual. And the grant manual is still available on the portal. So please
Just
go.
the updated one is not uploaded yet because of our issue with the portal, but
Right.
very
But
little.
it still has some valuable information on there, and I'm just skipping over this. So we can get to the more fiscal stuff.
Yes,
So
please do.
it can be found underneath the light blue area. And so budget guidance, I just want to discuss some resources and guidance surrounding the budget. So budget guidance overview, we're going to be talking about grants management office, the awards management system, your budget components, monitoring, and then further resources. And so the other half of Delk outside of the program management team, which Emma is a part of, is our grants management office. Teresa Waite is the director of the grants management office. And she also is a prior manager of ESEF. So she has a lot of some core knowledge, which is great. And we provide technical assistance, respond to any questions, and help out on anything related to the fiscal aspects of your grants, including if y'all need help building your budget, and also fiscal monitoring and reviews, and chatting about allowable use of funds, as well as any areas of non-compliance to kind of partner with you to make sure that you are on top of your grant. And I know we have some new folks, but I am going to just briefly go over our award management system, which is AMS. And this is where you will file your monthly claims for your ESEF grant to for either reimbursement or draw, depending on your funding model for your program. And there is an AMS dashboard. The link is on the portal that doesn't need to be updated. And it's great because it has a bunch of how-to guides as well to guide you through. And anybody that's had issues knows that the how-to guides are very, very picture heavy and text, so they're very good for all types of learners. And there's 4 roles that can be in AMS. I'm just going to talk about the fiscal coordinator and the claim coordinator. Your fiscal coordinator can run reports and update the records and modify some budgets within it. And then your claim coordinator is the one who is going to actually be submitting those claims. Some people wear all the hats, some agencies have a few. Okay, and so for your budget components, we've got your budget formalization, what your expenditure reports, how to make your claims, budget reconciliation, fiscal monitoring, and allowable and unallowable expenditure cost. And so this is your budget life cycle. So you formulate your budget, it gets approved, or I request revisions if needed. And then you submit your expenditure report and your claim at the same time because they are 2 different links. And your expenditure report, your budget is needed, so that way I know if you're creeping up on your admin fee or your salary cost, and I'm able to compare and contrast those numbers to just help with that monitoring issue. And then budget reconciliation at the end of the fiscal year. And for insurance, all of you to get executed grant agreement have most likely already submitted your certificate of insurance, but if not, please remember to submit your COI to delk.insurance@delk.oregon.gov. And that way they can get your grant agreement executed. And so some general budget tips, just some general differences between supplies and equipment. Supplies are tangible units costing under 5,000. And that doesn't mean 5,000 total for, $5,000 items. It means the item itself is $5,000 or less. And then equipment is a single item costing 5,000 or more. So that's going to be like a dishwasher or like that kind of expense. And cost allocation plans. So you must have a cost allocation plan if your organization has funding besides ESAF. So that means if you have private pay, EDRC, OPK, preschool promise, and that will be submitted at the start of the year budget and explain on any request for prior approval when applicable, just so that way we know if you're getting, you know, a $5,000 dishwasher for your commercial kitchen, but you're only asking for $1,000 from ESEF because you have it allocated between 4 other programs, just so that way it's more clear to any auditors as well. And your monthly expenditure report, that link is not currently up. I will be emailing out the current link because it's just not updated. It will be exactly the same as last year, with the minor change of some of these were they weren't. It now only allows numerical values because none of them did. So sometimes there was some confusion and people would type in spots that should only have dollars. So that's really the only change to this form, is that the spots that should have numerical values now only allow that. And just really reiterating, and these are screenshots out of the grant manual as well. Just a definition of what supplies and equipment are. So just again, that under 5,000 for supplies, over 5,000 for equipment. And what administrative expenses are. Nope. The mouse I really want to fidget with, so I apologize. And then also goes on into what a cost allocation plan is as well. So, and during the grant period, any budget revisions need to be submitted. So if you budget so much for staffing, but you realize you're not going to have a staff, but you want to move that fund to supplies, that's a budget revision if it's over 10% or $20,000 overall. And request for prior approval. Again, that is if you have a dishwasher break and it's an emergency versus one that you've built into your budget already. So the request for submissions link is updated. A lot of you have already submitted your 25-26 budget. And until we can update it, it is that 23-24 budget. So I do apologize that we just don't have back like access in the back end to update that at this time. And so very quickly, the request for prior approval. Large equipment purchases not included at the start of the year program budget. Any budget revisions that need to happen, either the 10% or 20%, any change in scope. So outside of stuff, if you decide that you're no longer doing parent-children interaction and you're only doing kindergarten transition and you need to amend numbers in your plan, that's where that would get placed, as well as any request to subcontract. And so requesting to subcontract are only needed for when the scope of the project is being subcontracted, but not for services like bookkeeping or janitorial. It is more like you have teachers that are coming in to do teaching versus having them on your payroll. So some common recommendations is just make sure you document when things are received and keep clear records regarding payroll and staff roles, including any blended or braided funding. So if you have ESEF kids and private pay kids in a classroom, then that teacher's salary needs to not be fully ESEF. So that kind of stuff needs to just be really clear on that fiscal documentation. And so the purpose of monitoring and why we do it is grant compliance, not just for DELT purposes, but for the state of Oregon and the Secretary of State and then the people of Oregon. So just to ensure that all the administered funds are spent wisely. So, and this is just that happens. It's either me or sometimes we do have like our internal auditors that will just pull claims and ask questions. So that is why just kind of staying on top of it is the way to go. And so what we'll be asking during monitoring, if it occurs, is any general ledgers, copies of submitted expense reports and submitted documents. So those, any policies and procedures for those expense categories, if your agencies have them. And so backup documentation, so your payroll, cost, receipts, mileage tracking, and so any bit of that is kind of what we'll be asking for at any time. So just ensure that your fiscal folks have that up to date. And we are getting close to the end. We're on slide 40 now. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me as we kind of rush through fiscal stuff. And again, at the end, we will stay on for however long to answer any questions. So
Hey,
yeah,
Brendan.
just
Sorry, there are questions in the chat. Do you want to just wait till the end to answer?
yes, I will not be answering questions until the end.
Okay, sounds
Just for the sake of time, I'm sure there are questions. But I just want to make sure that we get this in the recording. So review just the items to watch. So when fiscal folks in your organization change, please let us know. We're working on that contact list that Emma mentioned at the beginning, just to ensure that we are on top of everything. So that way we're not sending emails to folks who either aren't at the organization and that. So just make sure for this fiscal year, there's nothing that you're charging to the grant that was received prior to July 1st of this year of 25. Because they should be expensed to the last biennium. And don't stockpile goods. They should really benefit this biennium. So that means like if it's the end of the year or the end of the biennium, you're not buying a bunch of pencils kind of stuff. You're continuously reviewing payroll to make sure that employee time is expensed correctly and also that all the allocations are correct. And we'll be sending this out as well. It was translated into Spanish, so that's just what we are waiting for that. This is just a little fun claim approval flow chart. So for your claim to be approved, 5 steps must be met in order. The grant agreement must be fully executed. The agent budget, your agency budget must be submitted within 30 days of execution, and all programmatic and fiscal reports up to date. Agencies must also be attending their monthly ESEF meetings per their grant agreement. And the claim in AMS must match the expenditure report. If any step is incomplete, then it'll be paused until that's corrected. And only when that is fully in compliance will the claim be approved. So that's just ensuring accountability of state funds to make sure that we're upholding the grant agreement per the grant agreement. And so this is our allowable and unallowable expenditures. These are all also found in your grant agreement. So I'm not going to read each individual one, or not grant agreement, excuse me, grant manual. I apologize. So it just overview, it's not an encompassing list of everything. And, sometimes things do change based on Delk's policies, but we'll let you know when that happens. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm super happy to work with your agency to kind of figure out how we can get it paid for or what ESEF can pay for. And then, if there's other funds that your agency has to pay for the thing that's not allowable. So really extremely helpful if you're wondering if something is allowable or not. Please consider going through these questions. And it's really just a great kind of self-check for your agency. I'm not going to read through them all. We will be sending these slides out. So that way that is there. Excellent. So resources on the ESEF portal is where you're going to be able to find them. The grant manual, the budget template, the budget instructions, your request and submission portal, expenditure report, and your link to the AMS dashboard and AMS system. Some of those links aren't quite updated because of our backend issue, but should be within the next week or so. And fiscal answers are going to be either with me or in your grant agreement. And also additional resources, you're always welcome to check out the Oregon Accounting Manual, which really goes over in depth what we follow here at Delk. And any answers to your programmatic question is going to be Emma. And our office hours are the second Monday of every month. Nope, that is not correct anymore. Just kidding. Ignore the slide. We'll update it before we send it out, but it's, I think, the third Wednesday, Emma?
Yeah, I'll update that. I'll open the portal really quick to review.
I apologize on that oversight, y'all. Well, we have office hours at some point on a Wednesday. And that'll get updated and sent out in the after email.
I will tell you in just one moment.
Yeah.
My computer's being slow.
No worries. And
Oh
so
yeah, it's the fourth Wednesday of every month from 3 to 4:30.
fourth Wednesday. So yeah, that slide will get updated and we will get that out to y'all. So here's a great if you have any insurance needs for your COI, that is that delk.insurance at delk.oregon.gov. Our award management system support. So if you have any trouble with AMS, it is delk.amssupport at delk.oregon.gov. And if you have any procurement or grant contract questions, it'll be that delk.procurement at delk.oregon.gov. And whew, guys, we are almost there. So don't hesitate to reach out to MRI. If you have any questions. This is essentially the last slide because the next one's Q&A, but I'm going to leave this one up while we're here so that way folks who may or may not have Emma and I's contact information there. Okay. And oh, there's 16 messages in here. Okay. And now I'm going to stop recording and we'll hit Q&A. And it is only 12:06, so I'm actually real impressed that I was able to run through that.
Stephanie, we're very sorry for how quickly you had to be interpreting for that.
Yeah.
So sorry.
I tried my best to go slow and enunciate. Okay. Yeah, I'll hit Zakia's question first. Yes, because it is for
Did you stop recording?
oh, did I? No, I'll stop recording.
I